All right, let's dive into a case that I think you're really going to find interesting.
Yeah,
It's a cold case, and it's one of those ones that's really going to keep you guessing.
absolutely.
You had mentioned that you're fascinated by unsolved mysteries, and well, this one takes place in Vincennes, Indiana.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, small town, kind of a quiet
Okay,
town.
tell me.
Has a university there, so,
Really?
not exactly known for, brutal crimes.
Right.
So this one is very unsettling because it kind of, shatters that illusion of safety in a
Hmm.
place where people feel like they know each other. Everyone knows everyone.
Right, yeah. Small town, everybody knows everybody.
Exactly. So let's go back to September of 1997. Our victim is 18-year-old Brooke Baker,
Okay.
and she was a journalism student who was found murdered in her off-campus apartment.
Oh, wow.
And the entire community was just reeling, students, faculty, residents, everyone,
Yeah, I can imagine.
because there was no sign of forced entry. So, everyone initially assumed that the killer was someone that Brooke knew,
Right, right.
which seems logical, right?
Yeah.
But as we dig deeper, you'll see how, this case gets really complicated. So
Okay.
let's walk through the crime scene a little bit.
Yeah.
So Brooke was found in her bedroom,
Oh,
lying on her back, but her arms were spread out, almost as if she was posed in a crucifix position.
oh, wow. That's creepy.
Yeah, and that right there tells us this isn't just a crime of passion or just rage.
Right.
This killer is trying to send a message.
Yeah.
Maybe taunt the police, maybe play God.
Hmm.
But it's definitely a deliberate act that adds a whole other psychological layer to the case.
Yeah. It's a very specific choice to do something like that.
Exactly. It's very calculated. But then you have other details that seem almost sloppy.
Okay.
So she had been stabbed multiple times, mostly in the back,
Oh, my God.
and there were signs of a struggle. There were defensive wounds. She fought back. But alongside this brutality, you have bloody towels in the bathtub,
Hmm.
a bent bread knife, potentially the murder weapon, just left in the sink
Oh, wow.
with the water running.
It's like they were in a frenzy, and then all of a sudden they're like, I got to clean this up.
Right.
And then just panicked and fled.
Exactly. It's baffling.
Yeah.
So leading this investigation was Hal Johnston.
Okay.
He was the county prosecutor. And, this wasn't some rookie detective.
Right.
Hal had a military background. He served in combat and had years of experience handling homicide cases.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this guy's seen some stuff.
Yeah, he's definitely not a stranger to violence or, stressful situations.
Right. His military background has probably given him that disciplined and methodical approach.
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of what he was known for, that attention to detail.
All right. Which is essential in a case like this.
Exactly. But even with all of his experience, this case presented immediate challenges.
I bet.
This was 1997, keep in mind. DNA testing was not nearly as advanced as it is today.
Oh, yeah. It was like the Wild West of DNA back then.
Exactly. It was a relatively new tool, so,
Right.
it wasn't uncommon to wait weeks, even months for results.
Oh, wow.
And that, that delay made it really hard to quickly eliminate suspects.
Yeah. So you can't rule people out or in quickly.
Right. And it's hard to kind of build a case in a timely manner,
Right. Yeah. It's frustrating.
Yeah, so they collected DNA samples from several potential suspects, ex-boyfriends, people Brooke knew, but week after week the results came back with no match to the DNA that was found on Brooke, which they labeled 137F.
Oh, okay. 137F.
Yeah, and while they were waiting for those results, the rumor mill on campus was going crazy.
Oh, yeah. Can you imagine? Small town, university, everybody's talking and speculating.
Everyone's a suspect. And, that puts so much pressure on investigators.
Yeah.
You're trying to sift through fact and fiction.
It's just noise that you're trying to get through to find the signal.
Yeah, you're chasing down leads based on hearsay.
Ooh, man, that's tough.
Yeah, and one person who got caught in that web of suspicion, unfortunately,
Okay.
was Brooke's landlord.
Oh, really?
He was also a campus security officer,
Okay.
and he had been seen driving by Brooke's house at night, shining his spotlight,
Hmm.
and he had a habit of making unannounced visits.
Oh, that's kind of creepy.
Yes.
But again, that doesn't mean he's a killer.
Exactly. And this really brings up an important point about tunnel vision in investigations.
Yeah.
Especially when it's fueled by public pressure.
Oh, yeah. Everybody wants answers.
Right. They want a name, they want a face.
Right.
But, the landlord's actions, while maybe a little odd, they
Yeah.
don't automatically make him a killer.
Exactly. Yeah.
And in fact, he willingly gave a DNA sample and was completely cleared.
Oh, wow.
So back to square one.
Right back to square one.
But that just deepened the mystery. So investigators started exploring other motives.
Okay.
And Brooke had confided in her journalism professor that she was working on a story
Yeah.
about a possible rape at a fraternity.
Oh, wow.
So, that adds a whole other dimension to the case now.
Yeah, this isn't just a personal thing anymore.
Right. This could be a potential cover-up,
Yeah.
maybe even institutional liability for the university.
Mm-hmm.
And she had even mentioned receiving threats because of the story she was working on.
Oh, so it's getting dangerous.
It's getting really dangerous.
Yeah.
Almost, like something out of a plot from one of her journalism classes.
It's like those movies where the reporter gets too close to the truth.
Exactly.
And then they become the target.
Right, and the stakes suddenly become much higher.
Yeah.
So the police investigated the rape allegation.
Right.
They interviewed everyone involved, including the alleged victim.
Right.
But their findings were surprising. What they uncovered was that the alleged rape never actually happened.
Nope.
The woman confirmed that the encounter was consensual.
Okay.
So, that kind of put to rest that theory of a
Right.
fraternity cover-up or anything like that.
Yeah.
But this was just one dead end after another.
Yeah.
Months had passed, leads were drying up, suspects were being cleared.
So frustrating.
It was so frustrating.
Yeah.
The trail was running cold, and the pressure to find Brooke's killer was mounting.
Yeah, of course.
So they decided to bring in some outside expertise.
Okay.
They called in the FBI's behavioral science unit.
Oh, wow. Okay, the big guns.
Yeah, so Hal had to present the entire case as if he was going to trial.
Okay.
Every detail, every piece of evidence,
Wow.
all laid out for the FBI profilers to analyze.
So they're trying to get inside the mind of this killer.
Exactly.
Looking for any clues that might have been missed.
Yeah, and what they came back with was a pretty detailed profile.
Yeah.
They believed that the killer was likely a white male.
Okay.
Probably a university student living close to Brooke.
Okay.
Sexually active, aggressive, possibly a first-time killer.
Interesting.
And then they added another layer.
Okay.
Don't rule out the possibility of a transient. Brooke lived near railroad tracks, so a stranger passing through town could have been the perpetrator.
So it really opens up the possibilities.
It does.
Yeah.
And just when you thought this case couldn't get any more complex,
Oh, boy.
they uncovered something really unsettling.
Okay.
Investigators discovered an unsolved murder from 10 years prior.
Oh, wow.
With striking similarities to Brooke's case. Another young female college student
Okay.
sexually assaulted and stabbed to death.
Oh, my gosh.
So now the possibility of a serial killer operating in Vincennes becomes very real.
Oh, that's chilling.
So we end this part of the deep dive on a very ominous note.
Yeah.
Could Brooke's murder be the work of a serial killer?
It's a question that needs answering.
So we left off with that chilling question.
Yeah.
Could Brooke Baker's murder be the work of a serial killer?
Yeah, that discovery of that unsolved case from 10 years before really, it really changes things.
It adds a whole other level of urgency.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now investigators aren't just trying to solve a cold case, they're potentially trying to stop a killer.
Yeah, you're racing against time.
Before he strikes again, yeah.
Yeah.
And for Hal Johnston, the prosecutor leading this case, the pressure must have been just immense.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're dealing with a grieving family, a community that's on edge.
Right.
And then you have the weight of knowing that another young woman could be in danger.
And it's important to remember that Hal was also dealing with a personal tragedy at this time.
Right?
His wife was battling a very serious illness.
Oh, gosh.
So that added, just another layer of emotional strain.
Yeah, a lot of stress on this guy.
A lot of stress, yeah, to an already demanding situation. So
Right.
it's remarkable that he was able to stay focused.
Yeah.
But he was known for his dedication.
Oh,
He
yeah.
kept revisiting every detail of the case.
Right.
Searching for any connection that might have been missed. Anything that could link Brooke's case to this earlier murder.
Yeah, you're looking for, any little thread you can pull on that
Exactly.
might unravel something.
And that's a hallmark of a good investigator.
Yeah.
That relentless pursuit of the truth, even when the trail seems cold.
Absolutely.
It's refusing to let the case just fade into obscurity.
Right, because for the victim's family, that loss is always present.
Always.
It's not going away.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
But despite his best efforts, the investigation seemed to be hitting a wall. Witnesses were hard to come by.
Right, time has passed.
Memories were fading.
Yeah.
Potential leads were turning into dead ends.
It feels like it's slipping away.
It felt like the case was slipping away.
Yeah, and that's the frustrating reality of cold cases, right?
Yeah.
Time is the enemy.
Time is not on your side.
Evidence degrades, Witnesses move on.
Right.
The chances of finding that one piece, they diminish with every passing day.
And then, in a tragic twist of fate,
Oh.
the unthinkable happened.
Okay.
On January 19th, 1999.
Okay. Oh, my God.
It was like history was repeating itself.
Yeah.
The victim was Kathy Devine.
Okay.
She was 20 years old, also a student at Vincennes University, just like Brooke.
Oh, wow.
Both women were college students. Both lived alone in off-campus apartments.
Oh.
Both were sexually assaulted and stabbed to death.
Jeez. The similarities are too much to ignore.
The similarities were just too stark to ignore.
Yeah.
I mean, the town was understandably gripped by terror.
Yeah, I bet.
The thought of a serial killer stalking their streets?
Right.
I mean, it was a nightmare come true.
Nightmare come true, yeah.
And for Hal Johnston, this new case wasn't just about solving a crime,
Right.
It was about stopping a predator before he could claim another victim.
Yeah, the stakes are so high now.
The pressure must have been unimaginable.
Oh, I bet.
Two families demanding justice, a community living in fear,
Yeah.
and a growing sense that they were dealing with someone who would not hesitate to kill again.
Right, now you've got this media frenzy.
Yeah.
A possible serial killer in a small town.
Huge story.
It's national news.
Absolutely.
It's a pressure cooker.
But Hal was determined to stay focused.
Right.
He knew that letting fear or public pressure dictate his actions could compromise the investigation.
Yeah, you gotta stay level-headed.
You have to.
Yeah.
He needed to follow the evidence, not the headlines.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where his experience and his military background really come into play.
Yeah.
He had the discipline to block out the noise,
Right.
the resilience to keep going,
Even when it seems impossible.
even when the odds were stacked against him.
Yeah.
So with this investigation now moving forward on two fronts,
Okay.
the pressure was immense.
I bet.
They began meticulously comparing the details of the two cases, looking for any overlap, any shred of evidence that might connect them.
Yeah, any little thing.
Anything.
Yeah.
And that's when a crucial difference emerged.
Mm.
Remember how we talked about those seemingly disorganized elements of Brooke Baker's crime scene?
Yeah.
Well, in Kathy Devine's case, the killer made a mistake.
Oh.
He left behind a fingerprint.
Away.
Not a perfect print, just a partial one,
Okay.
found on a roll of duct tape that had been used to bind Kathy's hands.
Hmm.
But in the world of forensic science, even a partial print can be a gold mine.
Oh, yeah. It's a direct link.
A direct link
To the killer.
To the killer, yeah.
It puts them at the scene.
Places them right there
Yeah.
at the scene of the crime.
And you've got computerized fingerprint databases.
Right.
Even a partial can lead to an identification.
But there was a catch.
Okay.
When they ran the fingerprint through the databases, it didn't match anyone in their system.
Oh, wow.
It was like they were dealing with a phantom, someone who had never been fingerprinted before.
So it highlights the limitations of, just relying on fingerprints.
Right.
It's a great tool.
Yeah.
But only if they're already in the system.
Exactly.
If they've never been arrested or fingerprinted, it's a needle in a haystack.
So, back to square one again.
Right.
Not quite.
Okay.
Remember those rumors about Brooke's journalism work and a possible cover-up?
Oh, yeah.
Well, they resurfaced with even greater intensity after Kathy's murder.
So people are connecting these two.
People are connecting them, and, it's understandable in times of fear and uncertainty, people grasp for explanations.
Absolutely.
And in a small town like Vincennes, where rumors spread like wildfire,
Yeah.
it's easy to connect the dots.
Even if the connections aren't really there.
Even if those connections are based more on speculation than fact.
Yeah, you're just trying to make sense of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some folks were convinced that both Brooke and Kathy had stumbled onto some dark secret, something that powerful people wanted to keep hidden.
Right.
Theories range from drug trafficking to corruption to something even more sinister.
Oh, boy.
But amidst all this speculation, Hal Johnston had to keep a level head.
Right.
He knew that dismissing any theory, no matter how far-fetched, could be a mistake.
Yeah.
But he also couldn't afford to get sidetracked by every rumor that came his way.
Right. You gotta stay focused on the facts.
You have to.
Yeah.
It was a delicate balancing act.
Yeah.
He needed to pursue all credible leads.
Right.
But he also had to prioritize the hard evidence.
Yeah, the stuff you can actually use.
The tangible clues
Right.
that could lead to a real breakthrough.
The facts. Yeah. It's like navigating a maze in the dark.
It is?
Yeah, you gotta trust your instincts.
You do.
But you need a good map.
Yeah.
And for Hal, That map was the evidence.
The evidence, yeah.
Yeah.
So with the investigation moving forward on these two fronts,
Mm.
the pressure was just immense.
I bet.
2 murders, a partial fingerprint,
Hmm.
a town on edge,
Yeah.
and a killer who seemed to be one step ahead.
Oh, man.
It was a case that would test the limits of their resources and their resolve.
Yeah.
But what's truly remarkable
No.
is that despite the challenges, despite the setbacks, Howe and his team never gave up.
Oh, that's amazing.
They remained committed to finding the truth,
For that.
to bringing justice for Brooke and Kathy.
Yeah.
They refused to let their murders just become another cold case file,
Hmm.
and their persistence would eventually pay off.
Oh, good.
But the path to that resolution
Okay.
would be a long and winding one,
All right.
full of unexpected twists and turns that would take them far beyond the borders of Vincennes.
I'm intrigued.
Okay, so we're back, and the mystery, well, it just keeps getting deeper.
Yeah, it does. We left off with that partial fingerprint.
Yeah.
A town that's on edge and a killer who's basically vanished.
Vanished into thin air.
Yeah, it's like he's a Santa menace,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He's out there,
Yeah.
but you can't quite get a grip on him.
Right.
But the thing is, Fantles, well, they leave traces.
Yeah.
Echoes,
Right.
And that's exactly what happened here.
Yeah, it's almost unbelievable how a single fingerprint
Hmm.
could lead investigators across state lines.
Hooray.
Yeah, to a small town in Illinois,
Okay.
right across the Wabash River from Vincennes.
Huh. Interesting.
And what's fascinating here is how geography plays a role.
Yeah.
In these cases, I mean, criminals, especially those without elaborate plans,
Right.
they tend to operate within a certain radius, right?
Yeah, a comfort zone.
Yeah, it's familiar.
Familiar hunting ground, yeah.
And in this case, the suspect, well, he wasn't exactly a criminal mastermind.
Okay.
Brian Jones, a 28-year-old factory worker
Right.
with a history of petty crimes
Okay.
and a disturbing pattern of violence towards women.
Hmm. So there's a history there.
Yeah, and this is where good old-fashioned detective work comes in.
Okay.
An officer in Illinois was reviewing unsolved cases,
Right.
and he recognized the suspect description from a
Oh.
previous sexual assault case.
So it was just a hunch.
It was a hunch, a gut feeling,
Wow.
based on years of experience.
That's amazing.
And it's amazing how sometimes those gut feelings can just crack a case wide open.
Absolutely. The power of human observation
Yeah.
and experience,
Yeah.
and then you add in the technology.
It all comes together.
It really does. And so that initial recognition sparked this whole chain of events
Yeah.
that led to Brian Jones becoming the prime suspect.
So they had a name, Brian Jones.
Okay.
But that's just the beginning.
Right.
They still needed to connect him definitively to the murders.
Of course, you need that solid evidence.
Yeah. And with Jones living in another state, gathering that concrete evidence was no easy feat.
Yeah, it adds complications for sure.
And Hal Johnston knew that mere suspicion wouldn't be enough.
Right. He needs a rock-solid case.
He needed something that could withstand the scrutiny of a courtroom.
Something that would guarantee justice.
Justice for Brooke and Kathy.
Exactly.
And that's where the power of DNA really shines.
Right.
Remember all those samples that were collected
Yeah.
from Brooke Baker's case back in '97? Well, they had been carefully preserved.
Oh.
It's like a time capsule
Yeah.
waiting for technology to catch up.
That's incredible foresight.
It is. They understood that even if the technology wasn't quite there yet,
Yeah.
one day it would be.
Right.
And when that day came, those samples could be the key to unlocking the truth.
And they were right.
They were absolutely right.
Ah.
With advancements in DNA analysis,
Yeah.
they were able to test those samples against Brian Jones's DNA.
How
And the results,
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Brian Jones's DNA was a match
What?
to the DNA found on Brooke Baker's body.
So 137F.
137F?
Wow, that's amazing.
After years of dead ends,
Yeah.
frustration, they
Yeah.
finally had their man.
They got him.
The ghost had a face,
Huh?
and science had confirmed it.
Science doesn't lie.
But their work wasn't over.
Right.
Remember, for Kathy Devine's murder, they only had that partial fingerprint,
Yeah.
which wasn't enough for a conviction on its own.
Right.
So they needed to find a way to definitively link Brian Jones to that duct tape
Okay.
that was used to bind Kathy's hands.
Right.
And they did this by taking a closer look at his work history.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It turns out
Yeah.
Jones worked at a factory that used the exact same type of duct tape that was found at Kathy's crime scene.
Oh, wow. What a break.
Yeah, it might seem like a small detail,
Yeah.
but in a case built on circumstantial evidence, it was a critical piece of the puzzle.
It's all about those little details.
It is.
Connecting the dots,
Making the dots.
building that narrative
Yeah.
that's airtight.
So with the DNA match,
Yeah.
the fingerprint, the duct tape connection,
Wow.
Hal Johnston finally had the evidence he needed to build a solid case.
You got him.
Brian Jones was arrested and charged with the murders of Brooke Baker and Kathy Devine.
Wow, what a relief that must have been for everyone involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The trial was a media spectacle.
Oh, yeah.
Reporters from all over the country descended on Vincennes.
Small town, big story.
Big story, but amidst the frenzy,
Yeah.
the focus remained on Brooke and Kathy,
Right.
on ensuring that their voices were heard, their stories told, their memories honored.
That's how it should be.
And for the families of the victims,
Yeah.
the trial brought a mix of emotions.
Of course, yeah.
Relief, sadness,
Yeah.
anger.
Right.
But ultimately, the guilty verdict provided a sense of closure,
Yeah.
knowing that the person responsible for their loved ones' deaths would be held accountable.
That's got to count for something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Brian Jones was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole,
Wow.
and he eventually died in prison in 2018.
Okay.
His reign of terror was finally over.
But his story,
Yeah.
it really shows how evil can just lurk in the most peaceful places.
It really can, yeah.
And it reinforces the need for vigilance, awareness,
Yeah.
a justice system that's just relentless
Absolutely.
in its pursuit of the truth.
So this deep dive has been a roller coaster,
Yeah, it has.
filled with twists, turns,
Ups, downs.
and ultimately a sense of resolution.
Yeah, and it leaves us with some questions.
It does. What drove Brian Jones to commit these horrific acts?
Yeah.
Were there warning signs that were missed? Could these tragedies have been prevented?
Tough questions.
Tough questions.
Yeah.
And those are questions that may never have definitive answers.
And that's unsettling.
It is. The realization that some mysteries,
Yeah.
despite our best efforts, remain unsolved.
But even without clear answers,
Yeah.
we can learn from these cases.
Absolutely.
We can study the patterns,
Yeah.
understand the motivations,
Right.
work towards creating a society where these tragedies are less likely to happen.
Exactly. And that's what makes these deep dives so valuable.
Yeah.
They're not just about solving puzzles.
Right.
They're about understanding the complexities of human behavior.
The darkness.
The darkness and the light.
And the light.
Yeah, that exists within us all.
So I hope everyone listening
Yeah.
thinks about this case, the lessons we can take away,
Yeah.
how we can apply these lessons to our own lives, our communities, our world.
How can we make the world a safer and more just place?
It's a question worth asking.
It is. And as always, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, keep seeking the truth,
The truth is out there.
no matter how difficult or unsettling it may be.